When you think of a desert, what comes to mind? Vast emptiness, blistering heat, sandstorms that erase footprints in seconds. Now, picture this. Over 1 million rabbits, not wild, not stray, strategically released in one of the harshest deserts. On Earth, not for rescue, not for research, but to save the land itself? Sounds insane, right? It's in Inner Mongolia's Dalit Banner Desert, a place once swallowed by creeping dunes? No. China has done the unthinkable. It turned a lifeless wasteland into a thriving oasis using fluffy French-born rabbits called the Rex hare, not machines, not chemicals. Just rabbits, and 1.2 million of them. This isn't some viral internet stunt. It's a multi-million-dollar ecological engineering project that combines livestock, desert agriculture, and green economics, all designed to combat a threat that once swallowed nearly a third of China's landmass: desertification. Back in the 90s, China was losing ground, literally. Winds were eroding farmland. Towns were being buried in sand. Over 1.7 million square kilometers, nearly 20% of the entire country, had turned into desert. And it was getting worse. Every year, over 10,000 square kilometers of land were vanishing beneath the dunes. But then, China took a radically different path. A brilliant scientist named Qian Zusin suggested something no one took seriously at the time. If you want to heal the desert, you have to build an ecosystem, not just plant trees. That meant integrating animals, plants, and people into one interdependent system. Not just pushing back sand, but rebuilding life itself. Entrepreneurs began to take notice. They weren't thinking just about conservation. They saw an opportunity. What if the desert could grow not just trees, but profit? That's where the Rex rabbit comes in. Imported from France, the Rex hare is no ordinary bunny. It has silky fur prized in luxury fashion. Its meat is lean, nutritious, and in growing demand. And surprisingly, it loves dry, arid climates. The very place most life avoids? These rabbits thrive in it. But here's the twist. They're not just surviving the desert. They're rebuilding it. Every time a Rex rabbit digs, it turns the hardened, lifeless soil. Their waste is rich in nitrogen and full of undigested grass seeds, a perfect fertilizer. Within months, desert soil becomes farmland. The result? Vegetation's survival rates as high as 96% in one of the harshest climates on Earth in less than a decade. More than 300,000 acres of desert have been transformed into oases. Green belts are spreading, dust storms are retreating. And the once hopeless desert is becoming a global model for eco-restoration. It's not just science. It's not just sustainability. It's a miracle born from fur and instinct. But of course, the question remains, how did China scale this from 1 rabbit to 1.2 million? How did a dusty wasteland become an economic engine for thousands of rural families? And what happens when you unleash millions of rabbits into an unstable ecosystem? A sweeping view over Dalit Banner, Inner Mongolia. Rows of green vegetation cut across the desert like veins of life. Narrator calm, reflective tone. Turning a desert into an oasis sounds like something from an ancient myth or a futuristic fantasy. But in Inner Mongolia, it's already happening, and it all began with one bold idea. Not just to plant trees, not just to raise animals, but to create a self-sustaining green economy right in the middle of a sandy graveyard. In 1988, the visionary scientist Qian Zusin challenged China's traditional thinking on desert control. He believed that wind barriers and afforestation alone wouldn't cut it. To fight back the sand, you needed an entire industry, one that combined forestry, grasslands, and animal husbandry. In other words, don't just fix the desert, use it. Let it become productive in a way that restores the land instead of destroying it. That vision sparked the interest of Chinese entrepreneurs. They poured in not with shovels, but with blueprints and billions of yuan. One major project? 750 million yuan investment to build a 300,000 Docker salix base. Salix, a type of desert willow, has deep roots that hold sand in place, and thrive in arid soil. It was the first step toward turning a theory into a revolution. Asterisk, but the real game changer. The introduction of the Rex hare, a rabbit originally bred in France. It wasn't just a clever idea, it was a perfect match for this unique ecosystem. The Rex hare prefers dry, clean environments, the exact kind of terrain offered by China's deserts. And its behaviors, as strange as it sounds, make it a natural desert engineer. As Rex hares dig for grass roots and hay, they break up compacted soil, aerating it naturally. Their excrement contains undigested seeds, which get fertilized right where they drop. The result? Mini ecosystem sprouts up around their colonies. Scientists noticed that areas where the rabbits had been active showed an astounding 96% plant survival rate. That's not just impressive in desert reclamation terms. It's revolutionary, but it gets better. These rabbits feed on salix leaves and desert grasses.
Ow.
And in return, their waste feeds the plants. It creates a closed-loop system, a cycle, of life engineered not in a lab, but on a windswept plain once left for dead. The more rabbits you raise, the more vegetation grows. The more plants that grow, the more food there is for the rabbits. It's nature's perfect feedback loop. Solar-powered shelters, drone monitoring. This system scaled up fast, from a few hundred test rabbits to over 1.2 million today. By 2025, that number could exceed 1.8 million. But this wasn't just about planting grass and breeding rabbits. This was about building an industry and changing lives. Rex hares are more than soil turners. They're also high-value livestock. Their fur is used to make luxury clothing. Their meat sold as lean, high-protein delicacies. For farmers in the region, rabbit breeding has become a leading source of income. On average, a household can now earn up to $20,000 a year, a fortune in rural Inner Mongolia. And there's another unexpected benefit: ecotourism. People travel from across China and now the world to witness a desert reborn. The sight of soft-furred rabbits bounding through what was once an ocean of sand, it's as stunning as it is symbolic. This is no longer just about conservation. It's transformation of land, of economy, of identity, but of course no system is perfect. What happens if the rabbit population spirals out of control? Could this delicate balance tip into disaster? Is asterisk the story of 1.2 million rabbits reshaping? The desert sounds like a fairy tale, but every fairy tale has a twist. Because while the Rex hare might be a fluffy hero in the fight against desertification, it's also an animal with incredible reproductive power. Each female can give birth 40 times a year, often to litters of 6 to 10 kits. Multiply that across thousands of rabbits, and you're staring at a potential ecological explosion. This isn't fiction. In Australia, a few dozen rabbits introduced. In the 1800s turned into hundreds of millions, devastating native vegetation and wiping out ecosystems. So naturally, skeptics ask, is China repeating the same mistake this time in the desert? The answer? Not quite. What makes China's project different is precision and control backed by modern technology. Here's how they keep chaos from erupting. 1. Controlled breeding environments. Rex hares aren't just dumped into the wild. They're raised in regulated enclosures within managed green zones. Each zone is monitored by caretakers and overseen by local agricultural departments. Breeding is tracked, litters are logged. Population growth is tightly managed. This isn't nature left to run wild. It's eco-engineering. Rabbits are tagged and vaccinated. Their feed, movement, and breeding cycles are optimized using data systems. Even the shelters are climate-controlled to support their health and limit runaway growth. 2. Drones and satellites, eyes in the sky high above. Drones patrol the reforested zones. They scan for overgrazing hotspots, vegetation, stress, uncontained rabbit migration, and above that. Satellites send real-time imaging to AI platforms that predict vegetation loss and rabbit population impacts across thousands of acres. Imagine using space technology to manage bunnies. It might sound bizarre, But it's what's preventing ecological collapse. There's also a strategic ecosystem design behind the scenes, you see. The rabbits don't exist in isolation. China's desert transformation model uses a three-layer system. Forestry salix trees fix the sand and provide shade. Grasslands, grasses, and legumes regenerate quickly, feeding both rabbits and soil. Livestock rabbits managed carefully, enrich the ecosystem without overwhelming it. This layered approach keeps any one species, even a prolific one, from dominating the biome. And if the vegetation in a zone dips below safe levels, breeding is paused, rabbits are relocated, the land is rested, just like in traditional farming cycles. 4. Economics as a regulator. Here's the genius part. Rabbits are valuable not just as soil fixers, but as economic assets. Their meat is a luxury product in Chinese markets. Their fur goes into high-end clothing. And now, ecotourism around rabbit farms is surging. So overbreeding isn't just an ecological problem, it's an economic waste. Farmers have a financial incentive to breed just the right number, not too few, not too many. In other words, the system regulates itself. Too many rabbits, prices drop, fewer buyers. Breeding slows, it's a living equation tuned by profit. And ecology working hand in hand in the results. Vegetation coverage in these areas has skyrocketed from less than 3% a few decades ago to over 84.7%. Multiple oases have formed in once barren regions. Farmers now earn up to $20,000 a year in areas where the land once produced nothing. It's not just a success, it's a miracle with whiskers. But the real question isn't just whether it's working now, it's whether it can keep working for decades without tipping out of balance. What if a disease wipes through the rabbit population? What if climate change dries up their food sources? Can a system this delicate scale across China's entire desert belt or the world? That's where China is looking ahead, combining biodata, climate models, renewable energy, and human labor into a next-gen desert control network. Because if this works, it's more than a rabbit miracle. It's a blueprint for reclaiming Earth's most hostile environments without machines, without chemicals, without war. Just rabbits, roots, and resilience. In the next chapter, we'll look at how this desert transformation has elevated local communities, empowered rural economies, and even attracted global recognition from the United Nations. Not long ago, Dalit Banner in Inner Mongolia was a name that meant very little to most people, even to many in China. Just a dry stretch of land where sandstorms howled, the soil cracked, and hope blew away with the wind. But today, it's making headlines for a reason no one saw coming. Because here, amid the once barren dunes, millions of rabbits aren't just turning sand into soil, they're turning poverty into prosperity. The economic rise of Rabbit Valley in this desert, the Rex hare, is more than an ecological tool, it's an economic powerhouse. Farmers who once struggled to grow a single crop in the dust now operate breeding farms, generating steady income from rabbit meat and fur. Each Rex hare can reproduce 40 times a year, and with high survival rates and short maturity cycles, they generate an abundant supply of sellable goods. Their fur? It's a favorite in China's high-end textile industry, soft, dense, and versatile for luxury coats and trims. Their meat, high in protein, low in fat, a healthy delicacy with growing demand across Asia. In short, this fluffy little desert dweller has become a symbol of economic revival. From sand to salary. For many rural residents, life has changed dramatically. Where once they might have made the equivalent of a few $100s per year, rabbit farming now earns them an average of $20,000 USD annually. That's not just good money in Inner Mongolia. That's a life-changing windfall. Bought better homes, educated their children, started small businesses, even attracted ecotourism to their villages. This isn't charity. This is desert capitalism done right. At the heart of it is a rabbit. Global recognition, a model for the world. The results have been so transformative. The United Nations Environment Program took notice. Dalit Banner and surrounding regions were officially named a Global Desert Ecological Economic Demonstration Zone. That title isn't just honorary. It means that what China is doing here is being watched, studied, and modeled for other countries facing desertification, from the Sahel in Africa to the Middle East. Even parts of Australia and the American Southwest, with over 40% of Earth's land classified as dry land, and desertification threatening over 1 billion people, the stakes couldn't be higher. If rabbits can work in China, they just might work everywhere. Expanding the vision. Innovation in the sands. China isn't stopping here. They've launched the Belt and Road Desert Green Economic Innovation Center, a think tank and pilot lab developing even more ambitious plans, combining rabbit farming with drone-based seeding tech using big data to optimize grazing, patterns and vegetation types, developing ecotourism routes and nature trails. Through restored green belts, and it's all happening on land that 20 years ago couldn't grow a single tree. This isn't just a green revolution, it's a desert rebirth powered by AI agriculture and, yes, rabbits. What's next for the desert economy? By 2025, China aims to have over 1.8 million rabbits bred and managed across these regions. Not only that, entire industries are being built around the ecosystem. Fur processing plants, organic rabbit meat exports, eco-friendly textiles, agricultural training centers, renewable energy support infrastructure. What began as a small experiment in rabbit husbandry has become a masterclass in turning ecological restoration into economic power. From a forgotten desert to a flourishing oasis. From rural poverty to self-sufficient prosperity. And from a scientific dream to living, breathing, hopping reality. All because China dared to ask one simple question. What if the key to healing the earth had 4 legs and a twitchy nose? Asterisk, asterisk, China's rabbit-powered desert transformation. It might sound like a quirky story. But behind the fluff and fur lies a powerful lesson for the world. A lesson about resilience, innovation, and the unexpected ways nature can heal itself. Desertification, a global crisis, right now over. 3.6 billion people live in dry lands worldwide, and every year, deserts are swallowing more fertile land. The United Nations warns that desertification affects 1/4 of the Earth's land surface, threatening food security, water access, human livelihoods. Countries from the Sahel region in Africa to the American Southwest and Middle East are battling the same relentless enemy, spreading sand and dying soils. A scalable solution. What China has done with 1.2 million Rex rabbits isn't just a local success. It's a proof of concept that nature-based, animal-assisted, ecological engineering can be scaled up and adapted. The key: combining traditional animal husbandry with cutting-edge technology, drones, satellites, AI monitoring to maintain balance, ensure sustainability, and maximize economic benefit. Ecosystems, economies, and empowerment. China's approach shows that environmental restoration can't be separated from economic development. Local communities thrive when they own the process, turning desert into income rather than receiving charity. This model creates a positive feedback loop. Greener land gives more resources, gives better livelihoods, gives more investment in sustainability. Global partnerships and knowledge sharings. Thanks to the designation of Dalit Banner as a global desert ecological economic demonstration zone, China is sharing expertise internationally. Countries battling desertification are visiting, learning, and adapting these methods, including the use of rabbit-assisted regeneration combined with modern monitoring. The future of desert restoration. Looking forward, China plans to expand the rabbit breeding program to 1.8 million and beyond, integrate renewable energy farms with ecological zones, use biotechnology to develop even more resilient plant and animal species, promote ecotourism as a sustainable income source. This ambitious vision could redefine the future of desert lands globally, turning what was once lost into something thriving and alive. Closing, a new hope for the planet. So the next time you think of rabbits, don't just think of pets or food. Think of unsung heroes hopping across deserts, turning barren dust into green hope. And reminding us all that sometimes the smallest creatures can spark the biggest changes. China's desert rabbits are more than a story. They're a blueprint for hope.